Hello, my name's Kendall, and today I will be talking about the history of group practice within social work. So, what is group practice? This is one of the primary methods that social workers use because it has shown it is efficient and relevant by helping individuals in their skill development, in feeling supported, in problem solving, and coming up with solutions, and as well as building meaningful relationships through shared experiences, which is kind of the highlight of why group practices is such a great thing in social work. Understanding history, so a little bit about the context of it is that it's really important to just kind of track the progress we're moving into the type of social work that is evidence-based and is proven to have worked. And so something that's really important of understanding the history of groups is simply just to see why or how groups have been able to approach effectiveness and how it works for specific types of diagnoses in different populations. And so it's really important to understand that. And it also continues to help just the clients and community needs to see what's been most impactful and maybe what hasn't been so that it can evolve over time. An example could be support groups. And so something over the last century that social work has dove into is those support groups. They're becoming really popular because sharing similar experiences, especially traumatic ones, has just shown to be super effective, especially for those who just feel so isolated and alone. And so support groups are a way that clients can pull a lot. And so, yeah, support groups are super effective. And we have been able to see that because of the history of how they work. Um, so the origins of it are that they are originally focused on areas of grief, addiction recovery. That's a big one. Stuff like Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and then there's Smart Recovery, which is that alternative because AA has religious foundations. And there's just so many different um, addiction and anonymous. There's like SA for sex addicts, there's OA for opiates, and just so many different types of support groups that meet at all different types of hours with all different types of populations. Some of them are just for first responders, some of them could be for homeless people specifically because they just face sometimes similar issues. And so it's helpful for them to have shared experiences. They also create safe environments. They all have rules. They all are operating under the rule that what is shared in group stays in group. And so there is this safety, as well as reducing feelings of isolation. So support groups, are they relevant? Absolutely. This is still being used as social work, as a huge um, evidence-based practice. Still being used today. Social workers can facilitate these groups in any environments, hospitals, schools, organizations, community centers, and treatment centers as well. So this is still a huge part of social work. And it's because they have just been proven to be relevant and effective through just empowerment, encouragement, focusing on problem solving. And members often gain confidence by realizing that others have very similar struggles. Some of the challenges that may be seen in support groups, even though they're very valuable, nothing is perfect, right? So sometimes attendance can be a challenge, participation can be a challenge, confidentiality can be a challenge. So just things like that um, can become issues, even though there are a ton of strengths to support groups. All of those things can become issues. So, more types of groups that we can see in social work are task groups and treatment groups, which they both have different um, end goals, but they are allowed to be used in different settings to reach those end goals. So, they are two of the most common types of groups that social workers use to solve a problem or get to a goal of any type. So, focusing on task groups, these are put together to accomplish goals instead of providing therapy. And so, some of this can look like committees, planning teams, coalitions. And normally, what they are put together in to do is create policies. It's to fix a broader issue, it's to have a non-bias solution to something because it is a bigger group fighting for one purpose. As the task group's strengths can look like collaboration, really great leadership, getting to that goal, as long as everybody's, like working together. They allow professionals to be able to connect and network, community members to participate, and they really do create meaningful change in many different areas. Some of those limitations, because again, not everything is perfect, could be completing their goals, not getting there, and sometimes they don't always address emotional needs because it is so goal focused. Um, and because it is a group, there could be different perspectives and different ways of going about things, which can always cause issues. That next group is going to be treatment group. Treatment groups are designed to improve emotional behavior and social functioning, or all of the above. And these groups are used for mental health counseling, addiction treatment, and grief support. So support groups does fall under the treatment group um, category. So some of the treatment group strengths are teaching coping skills, again, reducing that isolation, having shared experiences, um, and accountability is another huge one. Again, AA, getting your chips, being kind of one of those bigger examples of a treatment group. Some limitations really look, they require a lot of trust and participation. If people go to a treatment group meeting and nobody says anything, there's not really going to be a whole lot accomplished. And so participation is a huge one. Again, also managing confidentiality, any group conflict. Um, could also become a limitation with treatment groups. To give a little comparison, task group focuses on accomplishing work, while treatment groups helps on healing individuals and kind of improving a skill that maybe is lacking or needs repair. However, both are very essential because they tackle very different goals. And so they will continue to be used in social work settings because we can see that they've been working, they've been evolving to serve the population and the diagnoses that they are currently um, treating. So, some code of ethics. Um, Nassau really charges us with the practice of respecting client dignity. So that's a really big one that we saw in some of those limitations. Um, but the Code of Ethics really provide the foundation for ethical group practice. And without any ethics, it's just like participation. It is a necessary foundation for accomplishing what either of these groups are set out to do. And so, one of those code of ethics is respecting client dignity. This also goes into promoting competence, maintaining integrity, protecting confidentiality, and valuing human relationships. All of those are being touched on with these groups. As a group leader, it's really important to create a safe, respectful environment. And by following those ethics that we talked about in the last slide, it should only be a matter of time until all of those really fall into place. Having ethics encourages participation, as as the leader can recognize cultural differences and maintain professional boundaries because there are really intense things that can be shared in a group. And so, as a social worker now, but continuously in the future, um, self-awareness is really important. Going into being a leader, knowing my own values, and avoiding bias while creating supportive environments for the clients to feel respected, safe, and encouraged, is really important in either one of the groups, whether it be task or treatment groups. Um, and overall, we can see through all of this the relevance, the historical context. That group work has remained one of social work's most effective intervention because it encourages support, learning, and growth. Isolation, we can see historically always leads to negative consequences, continued toxic behavior, whatever that looks like. But groups um, have been proven to be something that is really helpful. And understanding its history, choosing an appropriate group type, and following those Nassau standards is what makes these groups so meaningful and continue to make a difference in social work. And these are my references, and I hope you enjoy.